So we've talked a ton about Cybertruck versus the F150 Lightning because those are kind of two titans of industry going up against each other with such different design approaches and different arguments of functionality. Both have very large fan bases, but who I think should actually be worried of the F150 Lightning is essentially everybody outside of Ford and Tesla that is thinking about making an electric pickup truck. The biggest one that first comes to mind for me is the Rivian R1T because its deliveries are supposed to be just a month away. Unfortunately, they did have to delay them. They were supposed to be in June, but now they're just a month behind schedule again, but that's natural with all electric vehicles here. And frankly, the bed and the overall size of the Rivian R1T is quite a bit smaller than that of the F150 Lightning, so it does have a pretty high range. At least the launch edition is going to be a 300-mile range variant, but that's supposed to be well over $70,000, and once you factor in the federal tax credit, maybe you can get it a little bit below that. But the fact that the F150 Lightning is just around the corner has a very large, very present fan base. F150 has been the best-selling vehicle for many decades now, and there's going to be a lot more people that are confident buying a Ford vehicle than they are reaching into the new demographic of Rivian. And I think that they have a solid fan base. You know, I've seen the Rivian forums and I've seen the Rivian fans on Twitter that have all said that, no, I'm not switching for the Lightning. I'm talking more about the long haul here. I think that there's a lot of people who have been following Rivian since their inception and ever since they unveiled their pickup truck. Lots of people have been opting for that. They've fallen in love with it, and because they're such a big fan of that brand, nothing could really pull them away from that. But that's just sort of the initial hype phase. Rivian is supposed to last a whole lot longer than just unveiling to actually delivering their vehicle, and I also think Rivian's been doing a great job covering what their prototypes and production-ready models are capable of doing off-road, and we've seen them driving around on public streets quite a bit. So there will certainly be a few tens of thousands of people that have reserved one that will be very happy to finally get them, but once the F-150 Lightning is out and it's actually been delivered, it's gonna win, I think, on frunk space, it's gonna win on bed size, and it's gonna win on brand reputation. And because we don't have that big Cybertruck versus traditional truck design argument going on there, if anything, the F-150 Lightning, in my opinion, looks more like a traditional pickup truck than the Rivian does, and I could see some people just thinking that giant light bar on the front of the Rivian is too weird for them, and perhaps that's going to push them more towards the Lightning. And it also doesn't hurt that the Lightning price is going to be pretty competitive up against Rivian. We know now, thanks to Ford finally disclosing some of their specifications, that the cheapest Lightning that will have a 300-mile range, and that's also with a 1,000-pound payload capacity, that's going to start at $63,000, and that's before the federal tax credit. So the F-150 Lightning is going to be undercutting the Rivian here with a larger vehicle. I'm not exactly sure how profitable Ford is going to be able to sell these vehicles, or dealer markups you're going to have to deal with that Rivian probably won't. But still, I would say that a lot of people who think that the F-150 Lightning is Cybertruck competition are kind of missing how other EV automakers on the market are following with that traditional pickup truck design trend, and F-150 Lightning kind of beats out all of them as well. The Hummer is kind of its own thing, but specs-wise, I think the F-150 Lightning is objectively cheaper and with probably better range, and in my opinion, just a bit more practical. The Hummer is just so large, the bed isn't very big, and I guess if you care about crab walk and having a luxury pickup truck like that, then, you know, you'll be able to spend the money on it. But to be completely fair, I still think the F-150 Lightning is going to be far more appealing than the Hummer EV, just because that's a $100,000 truck, and in a few years they hope to maybe get it under $90,000. So yeah, I would hardly even consider that F-150 Lightning competition. But if it was competition, F-150 is still gonna win. The other EV brand I think should be worried is Lordstown, because all they kind of really had going for them was traditional basic pickup truck. They were gonna charge $50,000 for a range of 250 miles. Now we know that the entry-level version of the F-150 Lightning, the Pro, that's going to have a range of 230 miles, again, with a 1,000-pound payload capacity, and that's supposed to start under $40,000 before options, plus federal tax credit knocks a bit off of that. So Lordstown already started putting out some warnings that they might have to close up shop due to lack of funding, and they don't really have the capital to start mass production, so not a great start. And I also think that once Ford is hitting the ground running with these F-150s, and again, they are established automaker, both for gas vehicles, pickup trucks, and electric vehicles. They have experience in this category, whereas Lordstown and Rivian, they're still startups. They still don't have customers yet. And because of that, I think the F-150 Lightning would eat up the Lordstown's market pretty quickly once deliveries start beginning next year. Now, I do think that there is a chance for Rivian to stay alive because they're kind of taking a different direction from the F-150 Lightning. For those who aren't aware, F-150 seems to be kind of catering towards the more budget-minded, low-range demographic. Again, it's still kind of frustrating to me that it's like a $60,000 pickup to get 300 miles out of it. But the 230-mile range variant, I will say, is a pretty decent value if you consider it's going to be all-wheel drive. It's still going to have the big frunk, the big bed, plus the smaller display on the inside looks better to me. And $40,000, that's where I think a lot of practicality and a lot of weekend warriors will flock to. They'll realize, hey, I can buy an all-electric pickup truck for less than $50,000 as long as I don't care too much about range. But Rivian seems to be kind of aiming in the opposite direction with their next generation vehicles that are coming out next year. They expect to have a 400-mile range pack, and deliveries for that will also be probably sometime next year around when the F-150 Lightning hits the market. So I don't think that's with a 1,000-pound payload capacity, but still, if you care about extreme range, and likely, I'm guessing charger speed, because the Rivian Adventure Network is supposed to go way up to 300 kilowatts or more, that should mean that for the people out there that are planning on towing a lot more with their vehicle, or at least doing more cross-country road trips, the Rivian R1T might stand a chance. Yeah, it's going to be a lot more expensive than that entry-level F-150 Lightning, but Ford seems to be trying their best to advertise all these Lariat and Platinum models that are well into the $60,000 to $90,000 range, and with that kind of money, if people know that you can buy a Rivian that's going to be a bit smaller of a truck with a little bit of a smaller bed, but you will be able to achieve a 400-mile range or better, that I think is where the Rivian might stand a chance, and over time, hopefully we'll be able to see more entry-level models of the Rivian R1T with sub 300-mile range, but tremendous value. And then those two trucks, which I think share a lot of design symmetry, and it's mainly going to be a difference of, do you want to go with an established brand, or do you want to go with a startup? That debate, I think, is far more interesting than just going Cybertruck or F-150, because people who are in love with the Cybertruck are still going to be in love with it, and people who love Ford and hate the Cybertruck design, I don't think they're budging if they haven't yet. So let's have more discussions about Ford F-150 Lightning versus Rivian R1T, because those two, I think, have a lot more in common and a lot more overlap, and I think I could imagine a lot of pickup truck buyers in the future kind of being torn on which one they should go for. If Cybertruck was not an option, which electric pickup truck would you guys think is the right call? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Hope you have an excellent rest of your day. Take care.